Hello and welcome back everybody. We're officially rolling into September of 2021 and I don't know about you guys, but surprisingly this year has gone by in the blink of an eye for me. As always, we've got another dev update for you all today, and after a quick reminder that everything in these devlogs is subject to change leading up to the release of this game, let's get right into what we've been up to this month. One of the many areas we've spent time in this month is Vale hamlet. Located on the outskirts of VAHRIN, bordering the Bratham forest, this small village is one of the first places you'll discover in Exodus Rising. As always, when designing the block map for this village back in July, we wanted to push a unique experience and ensure that it didn't feel like any of the other areas that we had created thus far. Unlike the lower city, which we showed off previously, Vale hamlet isn't located within VAHRIN'S walls, and houses primarily common folk. You'll find that this rural destination has buildings densely packed together and doesn't feel as built up as the district in the city. As we slowly add art to this village, it's becoming more and more fun to traverse, and we're currently working on implementing the foundation of some of the side quests you'll be able to check out there. After our last engine update, we were struggling to get Unreal Engine's volumetric fog to work with the new weather system. This month, we finally managed to get it working in a way that we're happy with, and we're now loving the atmosphere that's created when a dense fog rolls in. It's also worth noting how much of an impact the fog has on the lighting during the daytime. A new transition for when you're travelling between areas has been in the works this month. The current plan is for this to be followed up by a loading screen showcasing the place you're travelling to, as well as a tooltip or piece of lore. We're also working on a new transition for when you enter and exit a boss room. We trialled a few different options for this, but found that we liked the squeezing through the gap in the door approach the most. Speaking of bosses, I've been given the all clear to give you all a very brief sneak peek at one of the new bosses we've been working on this month. Wielding a pretty deadly mace and shield that our environment artist created earlier this month, one of the many bosses you'll encounter on your adventure is this soon-to-be fully armoured Gron. Bosses are one of the many things that we're holding off on showing you all more of, because they're unique enemies that we want you to encounter for yourselves. With that being said, this small teaser is unfortunately all I can show you at the moment. Moving on now, some of you noticed in our last devlog that the mutt was creating a path in the snow as it jumped towards you. This bug has since been fixed so that no trail appears when the mutt is in the air. Another small but important update is the new and improved texture we created for our wooden weapon set, which has much more detail than the old one. We introduced new crows into the world this month, which initially had a tiny bit of trouble detecting that there was something in their way when they tried to fly away from you. By using a line trace to detect what's in the crow's line of sight, they now don't fly head on into things anymore, and will also pick a random direction to fly away from the player, which is ideal for flocks. To go with these crows, we've also created a new scarecrow, a creepy little thing that I don't really like to take my eyes off of, honestly. A big thing we've been working on throughout August is assigning stats to the various weapon and armor sets that you'll be able to discover on your journey. It's something that has kept us very busy this month, as balancing the weight of each item, whilst also taking into account the unique items that you'll be able to get your hands on, has proven to be quite the challenge. For obvious reasons, I can't show you the table that we made of all the items and their stats, but we now have almost every item in the game categorized in a way that we think works. Refining this is of course going to come down to a buttload of playtesting. Whilst I can't show you the table, I can show you this test dummy that our programmer recently created. When attacked, it displays a range of useful information for the weapon used, such as its damage over time. This will be a really useful tool for balancing our weapon stats in the near and far future. For the final part of this video, we're going to be taking a trip back to the Bratham forest, the very first location you'll discover in the game, as we've made some significant changes over there this month. You may recall the tessellation that we talked about in our last devlog. The landscape in this forest has now been replaced, which allows the tessellation to work correctly, meaning that puddles and snow are now able to collect on the ground. We now have a larger variety of flowers and plants to use when adding art to the world. We started using some of these in the forest, and the broader range of colours is really helping to deliver that colourful fantasy feel that we're going for. We updated the walls of the brick fortress in the forest by changing the overall shape and adding a little bit of degradation. And finally, probably the biggest change that we made to the Bratham forest is removing the big man-made bridge that used to sit at the very end, where you would encounter your first boss. After deciding that we wanted to have a consistent way of communicating to you when you're heading into this kind of fight, we decided to rework this section of the forest. You'll now squeeze through the fortress walls into a small arena in order to begin the battle, teaching you very early on how to spot when you're about to fight a boss on your adventure. And that concludes this month's dev update. A shout out to everybody who made it to the end of the video, and a big warm welcome to everybody who's new to this fantasy world we're creating. You may have noticed that this month's devlog was a little bit shorter than some of our previous ones. We've been hard at work as always, but a lot of our time this month has been spent on certain things that for spoiler reasons we can't show you all. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes when it comes to game development, and as we get closer to release there are going to be some things that we just can't show or talk about, especially when it comes to some of the later areas in the game. With that being said, we'll continue to try to keep you all as updated as we possibly can, and be as transparent as possible with our development. Thank you all for watching once again, and I'll catch you next month for our 10th devlog. Take care.